14 major concepts. The first question, you're going to have three questions. The first one is, what are the different types of government in ancient Greece? The first is monarchy, second is aristocracy, oligarchy, tyranny, and democracy. Be prepared to basically match those together, know the definitions. The next question is trace the development of democracy, and specifically in ancient Greece, but specifically Athens. And first, city-states relied on the poor for defense, and so that was the phalanx and navy rowers, and as they defended their city-states, they demanded a greater role in government. The next is owning slaves gave citizens time to participate in government. Furthermore, you had changes Sloane made. He made a couple of changes. First, he rewrote the city's laws. Second, he ended the selling of debtors into slavery. Third, he gave all men, free men, the right to vote. And he developed this concept of citizenship, that you had rights because you were part of a city, you were a citizen, but you also had responsibilities to participate in government. You also had changes that Cleanthians made. And first, he reduced the power of the rich by doubling the number of citizens who could vote. He also increased the power of the assembly. And he created citizen juries and gave women more legal rights. And eventually, Pericles actually started paying citizens to be on juries. That further increased the power and increased the idea of democracy. And finally, education was emphasized in order to create good citizens. So in Athens, education was seen as a tool to make sure that people learned how to be good citizens, learned how to participate in civic government. Compare and contrast the city-states of Sparta and Athens. You have, in the government, in Athens you had democracy, in Sparta you had oligarchy. In the government in Athens you had a council, assembly, and juries. In Sparta you had a council of elders, the real power, and then the assemblies really didn't have much power. The next was their economy, and Athens was based on trade because of a good harbor, and the agora, the marketplace, was the center of Athenian society. In Sparta, they relied on farming and conquering other peoples. They turned neighbors into slaves or helots, and they even had iron coins, which discouraged trade, so there was very little trade going on in Sparta. The next is education. In Athens, it was to produce good citizens, and boys were taught a wide variety of subjects, including physical education, philosophy, art, theater, drama, literature, math, the list goes on. In Sparta, education, the purpose was to have men and women have military training to protect the city-state. And so military training started at the age of 7 for boys, and basically they learned how to read and write at a very minimal level. And finally, Athens, women and slaves, and Sparta, women and slaves. So women in Athens had fewer rights than men. They couldn't own land, they could not vote, they didn't choose their own husbands. Slaves were either born into slavery or captured, and they performed a wide variety of jobs. Women in Sparta had more rights. They could own land, they could talk with their husband friends, and could marry another man if their man was too long away at war. Helots were the agricultural slaves of Sparta, and every so often Sparta would declare war on the Helots to legally kill slaves they thought might rebel.